They call it the defining partnership of the 21st century, which is diplomatic speak for we desperately need you to counter China, but we really hate your tariffs on Harley Davidsons. Welcome to the new era of US-India relations, where the shared values of democracy have been quietly replaced by the shared value of the dollar, the rupee, and the desperate need to keep the dragon back in its cage. Let's cut the fluff. It is February 2026. The Tariff Man is back in the White House and the script has flipped. For years, we heard about the indispensable partnership. Washington rolled out the red carpet, state dinners, standing ovations in Congress. They told us India was the counterweight, the democratic bulwark. Then, reality checked in. In 2025, the US slapped a 50% tariff on Indian goods. 50%. Why? Because New Delhi refused to stop buying cheap Russian oil, and because the US president looks at a map of the world and sees only two things: golf courses and trade deficits. They called India the tariff king, which is ironic coming from the country that just tried to build a protectionist wall so high even their own economists couldn't climb over it. But here is where the story gets interesting. Most countries, when faced with the wrath of the American treasury, they bend, they fold, they apologize, they buy a few extra Boeing jets and hope the master looks away. India just stared back. New Delhi didn't panic. They didn't stop the oil shipments. They simply pointed to the scoreboard. You want to tax our textiles? Fine. We'll sign a trade deal with the European Free Trade Association. You want to block our visas? Cool. We'll double down on our own manufacturing. And suddenly, the tune changed. Fast forward to this week. The deal is done. The tariffs are down to 18%. The punitive measures gone. And in exchange, India has committed to buying $500 billion of US goods. 500 billion. That is a number so large. It sounds like it was written on a napkin during a very enthusiastic lunch. It includes energy, defense platforms and civil aircraft. But let's read between the lines. This isn't a surrender. It's a settlement. The US realized something terrifying. They can't afford a trade war with India. Not now. Look at the map. The US is trying to decouple from China. They are trying to pull their supply chains out of the world's factory. But you can't just move a factory to the moon. You need a landing zone. Vietnam is too small. Mexico is too close to the cartels. Europe is on vacation. That leaves India, the only country with the scale, the demographics, and the industrial base to actually absorb the China exodus. So despite the bluster, despite the America first rhetoric, Washington had to blink. They need Indian factories more than they need Indian tariffs. And the hypocrisy? Oh, it is delicious. For 2 years, the Western media screamed about India buying blood oil from Russia. How dare you fund a war machine? They cried. Meanwhile, the US was quietly buying Russian uranium. Europe was still buying Russian gas, just repackaged through third parties. It's the classic geopolitical double standard. Do as I say, not as I do, especially when I need to keep my nuclear power plants running. But the real story isn't about oil or almonds or motorcycles, it's about the chips. The initiative on critical and emerging technology. This is the real glue. While the trade negotiators were arguing over tax percentages, the defense establishments were locking in the future. General Electric jet engines made in India. Micron semiconductor plants rising in Gujarat. Drone technology shifting from the US to Indian labs. Why? Because in a war with a peer adversary China, the US cannot rely on supply chains that run through the South China Sea. They need a backend, they need a trusted foundry. And they have realized that India is the only option. This trade deal with all its drama and numbers is just the cover charge. The real event is the technological integration of the Indian and American military-industrial complexes. They are taking US tech transfer, not as aid, but as the price of admission for access to the Indian market. It is a transactional relationship now. No more brothers in democracy. It's partners in profit. And honestly, that is a healthier relationship. Marriages based on romance often fail. Business partnerships based on cold, hard cash and mutual enemies tend to last a lot longer. The US gets a counterweight to China. India gets the tech to modernize its military and the market access to grow its economy. Does Trump love India? No, he loves leverage. Does Modi trust the US? No, he trusts interest. And right now, their interests align. The eagle has realized it cannot fly alone in the Indo-Pacific. And the tiger, well, the tiger is just happy to sell the eagle a landing strip for a price. In the end, this trade deal proves one thing. In the cold light of geopolitics, no one cares about your moral high ground. They only care about your market cap, your military reach, and your manufacturing output. India has all three rising.